So, what do you think are the three most important qualities in a teacher? Well, I could talk about fairly obvious things here, I think, like planning ahead, setting targets, having a complete overview of what you've got to achieve, in a fixed amount of time, and apportioning it properly. This is really important because exams just come up so quickly. And if you've idled in the early classes, you're just left with a backlog of things like vocabulary to teach, spelling, and it ends up being too much of an avalanche for the students. Also, if you sort of know what you want to achieve in each class, it creates a healthy pressure that then I think energizes the students somewhat as well. I think those things are quite obvious, but there are two other things that I found really important over the years. One of them I think is quite obvious, and the other one is something I've only realised recently. And it's when I feel that classes are really working with a student and the interplay between us is ideal for learning. That is to give the students the sense that you're not standing over them like a teacher, you're not in the place of a parent, you're someone who's just working with them. Both of you are working together to get the answer, you're cooperating with each other, and you're just there to help them. That is really useful, and I find students start to work with you really well at that point. The other thing, which I would guess is obvious, is just don't bore them. A student who's bored, of course, they're not really going to be learning something, but it just develops this antipathy towards the subject. If you can really bring them along with you and animate them, and if the hour passes quickly, that's how you know that you're doing it well. If the hour passes quickly, they will remember that, and it will change their whole attitude to learning, to a subject, to everything else. Well, I think we tend to warm to the things which make time speed up in life. So that's another thing I would say. What are your best experiences in teaching? Can you tell us something about your subject which your students have found most exciting and fascinating? Yeah, I can. Best experiences in teaching, various things stand out. My first year of teaching language in Estonia was fantastic because I was finding out that I really enjoyed teaching and that, it was something that came reasonably naturally to me. There was a boy I prepared for Eton entrance who was just a joy to teach because he was so curious and sparky. And he was the kind of person, if you mentioned something, he'd then go off and find out about it himself. So you really felt whatever you were teaching would just stay with him a really long time, and it might stay with him his entire education, you hoped. My first year of teaching literature at an Estonian university, I loved as well because it was the hardest work I've ever done in my life. And then I was able to use those lectures to travel around Russia and meet students and go to universities there. So those were the really good experiences, I would say. I've taught a lot of creative writing as well and taught creative writing workshops in Russia. Those two I loved because people just came back at you with such surprising things, and some of them were very talented. Why did you get into teaching? Well, I got into teaching TEFL originally, and it was because I was bored of an actor's life and I wanted to travel. And I thought I could teach. A lot of actors, I think, make reasonably good teachers. But I really enjoyed it, and it just built from there. And I've just carried on doing it from there in the last, since I was 26, that was. So we're talking 28 years ago. What else do you do for work? So I'm running out of time here. I'm a journalist. I write a lot for Spectator. I started off as a travel journalist, which is not a form of journalism I particularly like. And then after war broke out in Russia, while I was living there, I had to flee, and I got a lot of work writing about Russia and Ukraine and the Caucasus, where I had to live for a few months. And so I've just carried on writing, writing, writing. Do that in the mornings, do my teaching in the afternoons and evenings, and I feel that it all goes together very well. They never conflict with each other.